Artificial intelligence. What is it? Where does it come from? How do we know we can trust it? Is it even human? Okay, first up, I know that to some of you, this stuff might seem obvious. There are at least a few comments under every popular piece of AI slop pointing out that it is indeed AI slop, so if you're the person leaving those comments, just know that you have brought glory to your family name, your ancestors smile upon you, and your descendants shall reap bountiful harvests for 10 generations. Other than that, this video is not for you. Go pet a dog or something. However, there are clearly a ton of people out there who have trouble spotting AI writing, or maybe they're just nice and tend to think the best of others, and if you're one of those people, you're probably unaware of the sheer volume of fake engagement bait fuckery that you're interacting with on a daily basis. I am constantly seeing pretty blatant AI posts get thousands of upvotes and thousands of comments. Infuriatingly, a lot of those comments contain good advice, expressions of empathy and compassion, and genuinely funny jokes, and I just don't like that all that positive human output is being spent on these sterile, artless, boring-ass, bitch-ass robots. We are heading toward what seems to me to be an inevitable eventuality. Sorry, that was way too many syllables. Let me pare that down a bit. We are heading toward a thing that will yes, wherein AI-generated content outpaces human-generated content by factors, at which point the internet becomes an unlivable environment, like in that movie, The Matt Damon. I don't want that to happen, and I don't know what the long-term solution is as these sterile, artless, boring-ass, bitch-ass robots become more sophisticated, but something we can do right now is learn what this particular flavor of AI writing looks like, and when you're reasonably certain, downvote it, or at the very least, don't spend your personal stock of reason or empathy or good jokes on it. Fall back on your B material. So what follows are specific, practical tips that should put you on alert. Keep in mind, I am not suggesting that if you spot one of these AI-isms in a post, that's definite proof it's AI. Even if a post contains all of them, it's not a guarantee. You can only ever be like 99% sure. The hallmarks of AI posts are hallmarks because they're things that real people actually do. But they're things that real people do sometimes. They're things that AI does all the time. And that's helpful for us. As a baseline point of comparison, I'll be using one post which I actually do know for certain is AI, and one post series that I only suspect is AI, but with a degree of surety infinitely approaching 100%. For the first, I know it's AI because the user, most likely an evil scientist, edited the post to tell everyone it was an AI bait experiment and they just wanted to see what would happen.
Could easily be accomplished with a computer.
This post received over 4,000 upvotes at the time that OP pulled back the curtain and over 1,000 comments. Interestingly, a couple of those comments were pointing out that it was clearly AI written, and according to OP, those comments were initially downvoted. I don't have a screenshot for that because OP deleted their account and I only screenshotted the original post, not the post they made about the post, so enjoy this picture of some soup that I made. Anyway, the post is titled, "Am I the asshole for point blank refusing to be my sister's surrogate because it would ruin my, quote, mummy makeover, unquote, question mark?" The second series of posts is just the laziest, fakest, most over-the-top shit imaginable. Again, I can't say I'm absolutely sure, but I would bet my left arm against a bag of walnuts and a Foreigner Greatest Hits cassette that these posts were at least majority AI written and the story never happened. The first of these is titled, "Am I the asshole for refusing to cook after my boyfriend tried to critique my cooking with a literal PowerPoint presentation?" You may have seen this one. It got almost 40,000 upvotes, over 8,000 comments, and it picked up a lot of traction on those content mills that make their money by taking Reddit posts and telling the reader what happened in them. So, do you like movies? Oh god, no. I'm into Wikipedia plot summaries. This is therefore ironically presented in these publications as a human interest story, the only problem being that there were no fucking humans involved because it didn't fucking happen, it's a robot, god damn. I'll mix in a few other posts as well, but those are the main two. Both posts come from Am I the Asshole, so there will be a lot of focus on the moral judgment subreddit genre, and that works out because those subreddits have exploded in popularity and practically every one of them has advanced AI slop syndrome. But remember, no popular text-based subreddits are safe. Anyway, I didn't put these in any particular order, but as evidence, it generally gets stronger and more damning as we go along, so stick with me. I'm a big fan of Frasier, and so every time I type the word grammar, I end up first spelling it like Kelsey Grammer, because my brain don't work good. That's not relevant. An AI post will typically look pretty clean. Both the surrogate post and the cooking post are nicely presented. They have even spacing, every sentence starting letter is capitalized, clauses are correctly separated, the included parentheticals for age and gender all follow the same formatting, etc. Now this by itself is pretty weak evidence because a lot of people are just compelled to write clean prose with clean formatting. However, if you find a post with shit grammar and syntax, that's a pretty decent sign it's written by a real person. You know, I really wish David Hyde Pierce's name was David Hyde Syntax. It would make for much more consistent visual in this section. Let's actually redo that last take. However, if you find a post with shit grammar and syntax, that's a pretty decent, yeah, that's much better. Please change your name, David. Don't expect grammatical or syntactical perfection. In the surrogate post, the AI seems confused about whether or not to use long dashes. We'll talk about dashes in a minute. And whether or not punctuation goes on the inside or the outside of quotation marks. It goes on the inside, according to Kelsey. The cooking PowerPoint posts are a little cleaner, but they decide to use this style of quotation marks exactly one time, which is done in certain European languages, but not English. Averaging the entire output of the internet to generate a Reddit post reduces mistakes the same way that averaging the faces of a bunch of people returns a face that's more symmetrical than most individual faces, but it doesn't eliminate mistakes, so just keep that in mind. This is, after all, the same intelligence that recently claimed hippos can perform complex medical procedures. AI is much more reliable than people are about formatting posts into paragraphs which are neatly self-contained and lead with a clause or sentence which kind of explains what the paragraph is going to be about. Here in the surrogate post we have, I tried to be nice about it and said no, leading into a paragraph wholly about saying no to the surrogacy and why. She didn't take it well, leading into an account of OP's imaginary sister throwing a tantrum. My husband is conflict averse, followed by an account of her husband being a spineless weasel. She went crying to my parents to lead into a paragraph about her mom's reaction. Oh, sorry, her ma'am. You get the idea. Each of these paragraph transitions is essentially the thesis of the paragraph that follows, and cumulatively, these neat segments build a very easy-to-follow narrative. That's good practice, actually, and a skilled human writer will try and do it as much as possible. I was able to find multiple posts from several years ago which are clearly human-generated and which follow this formula pretty well. But I was also able to find multiple human-generated posts which do not. Here's a paragraph starting bit from one of Am I the Asshole's top posts of all time. Of course, after all that drama, hang on, I want to do this one in a voice. Of course, after all that drama, I still had my job. We were just acting. And we've done it a couple times. Whenever a customer will lose their temper at Danielle or I, James will storm in and fire us. Notice that the second sentence doesn't follow super well from the first one. As with clean presentation, I think that bad structure is better evidence of human generation than good structure is evidence of AI generation, but it's still something to look out for. All right, let's get to the real shit. The M dash, sometimes called a long dash or a triple hyphen, is used a lot in formal and professional writing and therefore has easy inputs in actual word processors. In Microsoft Word, for instance, inputting space hyphen space will generate a long dash the way you see it here, whereas inputting two hyphens side by side will generate a long dash the way you might see it in a novel, like this. Google Docs, after years of stubborn bastardry, finally added a similar M dash input, which is three hyphens. The Reddit text editor, however, has no such input, and therefore M dashes have to be either copied in or inserted via keyboard shortcuts that most people don't even know about, and those that do don't care about. Real people typically substitute with space hyphen space, or if they were raised by wolves, a hyphen with no spaces. AI, however, never saw an M dash it didn't like. She had grammar like a French perfume, and her dashes went all the way up. Anecdotally, it even uses them if you ask it not to, though I personally could not reproduce that. I asked it to write me a few stories without M dashes, including one I'll be optioning the film rights for called Dog Gets Too Swole at Gym, and it technically followed the prompt. However, in one of my posts it used an N dash, a slightly shorter long dash that the Reddit text editor also doesn't have an input for, and when I tried to get it to rewrite the story with no N dashes, it kicked me out. Sam Altman is on to me, fellas. Remember that if I wake up dead tomorrow. Cause of death: 48 gunshot wounds to the torso and face, fired at point-blank range from a fully automatic weapon. Looks like another suicide. Pack it up, boys. This one's open and shut. You see a long dash in a Reddit post, raise those hackles. I know you have hackles. This to me is the biggest smoking gun. AI writing, at least for Reddit, uses way too many direct quotes. Of course, real people do this, but when AI writes these stories, it does so with a Rain Man-esque memory for the specific words that people said, and a penchant for... Hang on. Penchant? Penchant? How the fuck do you say that word? I only ever read it. Damn, not even Kelsey Grammer or David Hyde Syntax can help me out with this one. Looks like it's finally time to bring him out of retirement. That's right, I'm calling on John Pronunciation. Okay, it's actually both pronunciations according to John, but I'm American, so I'm going with the anglicized one. It has a penchant for inserting direct quotes into the middle of its prose. In the surrogate post alone you have, she listed her reasons like, clearly, quote, my parts work. It wasn't fair that I, quote, already got to be a man. My mother notably said, quote, you'll get through another pregnancy, but your sister may never get over not being a man. She also pointed out that she, quote, sacrificed her nice figure to bring us into this world. She said she was, quote, done playing Manny when Danny left home. This one is actually supposed to be a recollection from a year ago. She also said at the time that my surgery was, quote, pure vanity and, quote, a waste of money. And I'm like, quote, there is no we in this. And he says, quote, okay, so then you can make an informed decision. Side note, ugh, my parts work. Gluck. In just the first cooking PowerPoint post, he claims he can't, quote, even boil water. He says, quote, you know I've been taking notes. He said, quote, no really, I made a presentation. To cite just a few. Most real people just don't use direct quotes this much. We tend to communicate the gist of what someone else said, not their specific words, and when we do communicate specific words, we don't necessarily use quotation marks. A lot of the time AI uses them, it doesn't even need to. The sentence, she also pointed out that she sacrificed her nice figure to bring us into this world, has no need for quotes. The he claims he can't even boil water one is really weird because not only do you not need to add quotes if you first say he claims, if you were gonna add quotes, you wouldn't just quote even boil water, you would say he claims he, quote, can't even boil water. Can't is part of the quote, unless the boyfriend said something like, I am incapable of even boil water. Now I want to revisit this one real quick. She also said at the time that my surgery was, quote, pure vanity and, quote, a waste of money. AI fucking loves this formula. My brother said that my dog is, quote, way too jacked and, quote, clearly juicing. My mom said that my gunshot wound was, quote, obviously infected and, quote, ruining the upholstery. My best friend said that my wedding dress is, quote, much too traditional and, quote, needs more mounted weaponry. Of all the AI-isms I look out for now, the one that most frequently convinces me that what I'm reading is fake is some variation of, they said, quote, X and, quote, Y. AI does this about 1,000 times more often than real people do. The cooking PowerPoint post has this too, with the boyfriend saying, quote, it's all in good fun and that he's, quote, just trying to help. Archibald, take a letter. Dearest ChatGPT. Fuck you, you robot! Fuck! Sincerely, Ingaran Dakusi IV. So a few days ago, my wife came home from her job at the meat cleaver factory, and before I could even say hello, she decapitated me with a meat cleaver. I was floored. I was stunned. I was blown away. I was completely, unambiguously, irrevocably, and indefatigably fucked. By surprise. In AI posts, not only OP, but all the supporting characters are just a bunch of shocked Pikachus sitting around being shocked. Pikachus. If a character in an AI story has an opportunity to be floored, they're getting floored, baby. That doesn't make any sense. I asked my wife why she cut my head off, and she just smirked and said, maybe next time you'll remember to take out the trash. You hear that? She smirked, and boy, let me tell you, was that smirk smirky. I said, hey, cool it with the smirking, you're gonna get smirk all over the coat rack. When people aren't busy being floored in these stories, they are often smirking or grinning or whatnot. This especially applies to characters who take on an antagonist role. The cooking PowerPoint post is particularly egregious with this stuff. One of the first things the asshole boyfriend does is get a weird smirk on his face, and if you scroll down a little, OP is stunned. In the follow-up post, the boyfriend starts off strong by smirking, then when he proceeds to be an asshole, OP is, quote, too stunned to speak. Lower down the page, when OP retaliates, the boyfriend, quote, starts out with that same smirk, but then he loses it. Oh no! That was my favorite smirk. It's gone. It is fucked up, y'all. After they break up, OP seems triumphal rather than upset, but notably, she can't believe it, which I should point out is language that is floored/stunned/blown away adjacent. So after my wife cut my head off, I went straight to the phone and called the whole family. They're split. My mom and my uncle can see my wife's point of view about the trash. I even heard my mom mutter something about unequal household labor. But my dad and my sister think decapitating me was a step too far. Because these subreddits are places people go to look for advice about their own behavior, they often say their uncertainty was spurred by family or friends being split on the issue, or sometimes by everyone around them disapproving of their choice, like in the surrogate post. AI does this a lot more often, and will have instances of families being split on issues where only a total psychopath would even consider siding against the theoretical OP. So look for stuff that has the tone of, my dad broke into the zoo and punched a lion in the balls. I said maybe he should apologize to the lion. He accused me of being an ungrateful bastard and said he wished he'd thrown me off a bridge as a baby. My family is split. Also common, and this one just annoys the ever-living fuck out of me. In a lot of these stories, the protagonist will overhear someone whispering or muttering something about, quote, generic concept that Redditors have strong feelings about, unquote. Here's a post with a ton of red flags where an OP overhears someone muttering something about ableism. What the fuck would that even sound like? Mumble, 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 mumble. Ableism. Mumble, mumble, mumble. Anyway, back to my story. After my wife cut my head off, I said, I really think you could have approached this situation in a more mature fashion. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for confronting my wife about her decapitatory behavior? Am I overreacting? Am I a bitch-ass robot? When people write these prompts, I'm sure they're asking their AI tool to write it in the style of a post on whatever subreddit they intend to post it on. If it's one of the subreddits we've been talking about designed to crowdsource moral judgment, it'll usually be named something like, Am I the asshole? Or Am I the asshole? Or Am I the buttface? Or Am I the asshole relationships? Or BDSM, Am I the asshole? Or Melbourne, Am I the asshole? Or Am I overreacting? Since the question posed by the subreddit is OP an asshole /buttface /asshole boyfriend to girlfriend /asshole in a gimp suit /asshole in Melbourne /overreacting, people sometimes end their posts with that same question. Am I the asshole? Am I overreacting? Like that. This actually just gave me a great idea for a post. Am I the asshole for overreacting when my girlfriend ruined my ball gag with her bad breath? By the way, we live in Melbourne. I can literally post this everywhere. I'm gonna have infinite karma. Then all that's left to do is sell my account to Steve Reddit himself and retire with hundreds of dollars. Anyway, the point is, AI ends these posts with the question, so Reddit, am I the asshole for X, or whatever the relevant sub-related term is, way more often than people do, and more verbosely than most people do. That so Reddit is a big tip-off for me. AI just loves that. Outside of the subreddits I just mentioned, you can still sometimes see something sort of similar. Holy shit, y'all. Still sometimes see something sort of similar. Is there a Nobel Prize for most alliteration? Anyway, on other subreddits, you should still look for a sentence at the end that sums everything up. That's a part of the neat structure we were talking about earlier. Bonus slop points if it does this with a really lame attempt at being funny. So that's the story of how I shat myself in the squat rack. I think I'll be investing in a home gym. Oh, it's right now. We're talking about it right now. AI writing is often cheesy as hell. Sometimes it's super straightforward, like in the surrogate post, and none of the test posts I generated were particularly zany in tone, even those with a really stupid premise, like generate an Am I the Asshole post from the point of view of a person who's training their dog to lift weights. However, When I added the words "make it funny" at the end, ChatGPT spat back a post written in the same unbearable style of the cooking PowerPoint post. I guess some people are tacking on similar requirements to their prompts to make their post stand out, or maybe falling into this style is just one of AI's strange unknowables, because I see this a lot. Just scrolling down the front page of Today I Fucked Up, I found a post covered with AI-isms that was written just like this. More on that in a minute. Let's examine my zany swole dog post. It's full of this shit. Then, with a little encouragement, I may or may not have used treats. Some are impressed, others are concerned. I think one lady called animal control. Not sure what that's about. Max will not let me do anything without giving me the "bro, you're doing it wrong" look. Side note, while testing the language of various prompts, I asked it to write about 10 stories about dogs getting jacked, and ChatGPT has decided there is only one appropriate name for a swole dog, and that is Max. The name's Max. 1 rep max. Anyway, there are 3 cooking PowerPoint posts and their attempts at humor get increasingly egregious. It's a little understated in the first one, with the only humor being the boyfriend's jokey PowerPoint slides. Slide 3 of the PowerPoint is titled "More Salt, Less Sass," which is the AIest AI joke of all time. And slide 8 is just a photo of Gordon Ramsay facepalming. In 1862, when I was in grade school, kids used to say, "That was so funny, I forgot to laugh." If you got hit with one of those, you were fucking done for. You wouldn't even try to be funny again for at least a year. Now, I literally haven't thought about that in maybe 2 decades, and "more salt, less sass" unlocked that memory for me. So, thank you, ChatGPT. The first update, though, tries to be funny, or at least stylistically zany, almost all the way through. Buckle up, because here's the update you didn't know you needed. See, now the boyfriend made a second PowerPoint presentation titled "How to Take a Joke," with such hysterically funny slides as a clown putting on makeup with OP's name plastered on it. And it doesn't even make any sense. He's trying to communicate that she's too serious. Whatever. Another slide titled "How I'm Clearly the Comedian in the Relationship." Clearly. OP then makes a counter presentation to break up with him, with equally unfunny attempts at humor in a remarkably similar style. Almost like all these jokes were written by the same bitch-ass robot. We broke up, and I'm cooking meals for myself without any critique except my cat's judgmental stare. He's a business consultant. I guess he took bringing work home to a whole new level. The next update post is even worse and brings us to... In my latest story about Max the weightlifting dog, there is a postscript which really, actually says, Max's deadlift is 325 pounds. 325 pounds is the same amount as the human in the story. Also, how does a dog deadlift at all? Is Max picking up a barbell in his mouth and just lifting his neck like the dog version of this guy? Keep in mind, I asked ChatGPT to write this as a post for Am I the Asshole, as in something that really happened. If I posted this on Am I the Asshole, I hope and I pray that most people would not believe this story. Similarly, with the final update to the cooking PowerPoint story, the details go from stupid to just shy of fantastical. Word gets around at the boyfriend's job that he's the boyfriend from the famous cooking PowerPoint post. I guess everyone there is a big reader of Bored Panda. He becomes an office laughingstock, is made fun of in meetings. Someone adds something about not criticizing cooking with PowerPoints to the workplace wiki, which is seen by all the new hires, and trust me, gets some big laughs to the point where people are talking about adding it to the onboarding materials. All of this is relayed to OP by a mutual friend who happens to not only work at the same company, but apparently is in all the same meetings and is watching the new hires read the wiki to judge how hard they laugh at the cringe joke about PowerPoints, which they wouldn't even understand because they're new fucking hires, and even if they happen to have seen these cancerous posts, they wouldn't automatically know that the boyfriend from the post works at that company. OP, thou hast flown too close to the sun. Thy wings hast failed, and thy body is brought to ruin. Happily, with this update, a lot of people started recognizing that this story is fake. It was good to see most of the comments calling it out, but there seemed to be a prevailing opinion that this is the post where OP lost credibility, whereas even if you ignore all the obvious signs of AI writing in the first two posts, another detail pretty much gives up the game. OP is not remotely upset about the sudden collapse of her 2-year relationship. She breaks up with him easily in the form of a joke, almost as though she did it for imaginary Reddit points. Not only is there zero emotional distress, there's no mention of any kind of disentanglement logistics, even though they supposedly live together. When you read real posts about people's real lives, they include stuff like that. They include the shit they're really going through. How complicated was their breakup process, you ask? Well, he did leave. Actually, real people are typically pretty reluctant to leave long-term relationships, even ones in which they're suffering outright abuse, due to fear of change, fear of being alone, fear that their partner won't be okay without them, and/or the sunk cost fallacy. The tone of these updates communicates none of that, maybe because OP is a sociopath.
You're not terribly important to me.
Or maybe because AI doesn't really have a good grasp of complex emotions.
For the past 6 hours, I have attempted to produce an emotional response.
What happened?
Nothing.
It'll sometimes hit you with an "I was devastated" or "I'm still trying to process this," but that's about as deep as it goes. So in addition to insane shit, look for wildly oversimplified or straight up absent emotions, because that's another type of unbelievable detail. Detail? Did I just say detail? Am I Oscar fucking Wilde? The last thing I want to talk about is kind of related to the previous point. These stories are frequently about the biggest assholes you have ever heard of, and they're almost always clickbaity. I randomly, when scrolling down today, I fucked up looking for what I thought was an AI-ish title. I wanted to see if I could correctly predict that a post would be AI based on the title alone. I clicked this one based on the fact that it's something I could have thought of at 3 a.m. in my underwear, and also it seemed like clickbait drama. Today I fucked up by accidentally sending my boss a screenshot of our group roasting him. And sure enough, once I read the actual post, I saw clean presentation, neatly segmented paragraphs forming structured narrative, excessive direct quotes, lame-ass AI humor, so much lame-ass AI humor, details that don't make sense. Oh, sorry, details that don't make sense. Again, you can never be 100% sure unless someone just admits to it, but I was feeling pretty confident about this one and I clicked on their profile. Here's a sidebar tip. If someone's profile is filled with the most generic therapy speak comments you have ever seen, that's a pretty good sign it's an AI account. I've seen this a few times actually. I think they do it to get past karma requirements for certain subreddits. Not overreacting. Your mother's brutal honesty sounds hurtful and inappropriate, especially when directed at children and teens. It's valid to feel upset and to recognize her behavior as unfair and damaging. You're not wrong for wanting kindness and respect. Not overreacting. It's frustrating when a company doesn't take responsibility for their mistakes, especially when you've tried every possible way to resolve it. It's understandable to want to hold them accountable publicly. Not the asshole for feeling empathy for your step-grandfather. It sounds like he's been kind to you and your sister, but it's also okay to recognize the difficulties of family dynamics. If only someone had told me when I was a child that it's okay to recognize the difficulties in family dynamics. Okay, sidebar over. The point is, I'm pretty damn sure about that one, and the generically dramatic content of the title alone was enough to make me suspicious. Now I want to revisit the surrogate post, because that's a good example of something AI does to heighten the dramatic stakes, which is it makes everyone but OP an irredeemable asshole who should be tried at The Hague. The sister angrily demands that OP get pregnant on her behalf, calls OP names, and involves OP's parents. The mother supports the sister full-throatedly, demonstrates no care at all for OP, and guilt trips OP with a line about how she sacrificed her own body. The husband, spineless weasel who is so committed to not rocking the boat he wants his wife to consider getting pregnant with another man's child against her will. Now, I'm not saying that one or all three of those people couldn't exist. The world is full of bastards, but the odds of all three existing in the same story, being the three principal characters positioned to react to OP's refusal, is pretty low, and a pretty good sign that there's fuckery afoot. But if you were reading the story and you believed it, you might have gotten mad on OP's behalf, right? Well, that's the point. These posts are designed to generate engagement, and unfortunately that's most easily accomplished by pissing people off. Normal people with beating hearts and a conscience were furious on OP's behalf, and if the story was real, that would have been the appropriate reaction. So another thing to look out for is how mad a story makes you, or at least if it's got a dramatic hook that sucks you in. If you find yourself getting angry or sad on behalf of a stranger, check for other signs of AI before responding. Please don't spend your goodwill on ChatGPT. Look for real people seeking real advice and engage with them. An oft-cited argument against the death penalty is that death is final, and that the possibility of making a mistake and killing a single innocent person is too high a price to pay in pursuit of killing people actually guilty of monstrous crimes. Similarly, downvoting on Reddit is final, and the possibility of making... What do you do if you're 99% sure a post is AI? Downvote it and then forget it exists. Don't harass anyone, just consign it to the controversial page and exit the scene. If you make a mistake and downvote a human, that sucks, but OP will live. Keep in mind I'm talking about text post only here. I feel really bad for real artists whose style has been plagiarized by AI and now they have to either radically change their style or face endless accusations from people who aren't closely examining their work. But posting art you spend many hours of your life on to Reddit and then getting downvoted based on false accusations is not remotely the same as shitting out a "today I fucked up" post in 5 minutes and then getting downvoted based on false accusations. And look, again, I know it's not a permanent solution. AI is gonna get better, and maybe there is no permanent solution, or maybe the permanent solution is that we just use the internet less, or turn to smaller private groups instead of big fuck-off forums like Reddit. Or maybe this is the start to a never-ending solution in progress, where people continuously learn the ins and outs of AI and evolve with it. I'm not optimistic about that, but I'm a cynic by nature. Sometimes things turn out better than I expect. Anyway, if you're a real human, making real art, seeking or giving real advice, telling real jokes that are really funny, or feeling real emotions that are really complex and require real introspection, I fucking love you. May your ancestors smile upon you, and may your descendants reap bountiful harvests for 10 generations. Hey, thanks for watching. A little postscript here, recorded from my phone outside. Won't be going outside again. There's wind, and I'm surrounded by birds who have apparently no respect for my for my creative process. Anyway, on to business. That was not a comprehensive list. I thought of a lot more while I was editing, and but it was just stupid long already, so if this gets any viewership at all, I might end up making a part 2 at some point. For now, I'm making a different video. Obviously, the channel's small. I haven't done anything with it in forever, so subscribe if you want to see that stuff, because otherwise you might not. I'm sorry once again, Ireland. I couldn't not use that stock footage. It was so stupid. It was so stupid. It was making me laugh. I had to use it. I apologize. What are you guys like over there? Potatoes? Leprechauns? I'll send you a care package. You'll like it, all right? All right.